Welcome to the Gyrl podcast, the show where purpose meets inspiration. Each week, I sit down with incredible individuals who open up about their real life journeys, the wins, the setbacks, and the lessons in between. Whether you're navigating career moves, entrepreneurship, or personal growth, you're in the right place. I'm Kyra Mitchell Lewis, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's go up together. All right, happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic week. I hope life is treating you well. Let's dive into today's guest. What are we talking about? We're talking about the Great Reset, turning life's biggest transitions into your greatest growth with my guest, Anisha Jennings. Anisha is a systems administrator, entrepreneur, and conference speaker who blends technical expertise with heart centered leadership. After moving from India to the US for her second master's degree, she turned a major life transition into a complete personal and professional reset. Anisha is the founder of Jennings Tech Corner and the Founder's Back Office, and the host of Your American Dream, a podcast amplifying the stories of immigrant women and women of color entrepreneurs. All right, let's grab Anisha and bring her into the show. All right, welcome back, and let's welcome Anisha to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, I like to get us started by asking every guest to tell who they are and what you do.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on this show. My name is Anisha Jennings. I'm the founder of Jennings Tech Corner, where we build strategic, high converting websites and help founders and entrepreneurs with their tech stack. We also help with podcast management and support services, and also with team support as you grow in your business to help you, scale. And so we help with team support. I'm also the host of a podcast called Your American Dream, where I interview immigrant women and women of color entrepreneurs on my show and come have them share their story. I'm a mom of a 3-year-old, and we live in New Jersey. And yeah, that's a little about me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So, the theme of this episode is around the great reset, turning life's biggest transitions into your greatest growth. And you moved from India to the US for your second master's degree, which was a huge leap.
Yes, it
Can you walk us through that decision and what it really asked of you to do that for yourself?
Yes. Now it feels like, it feels like it was just yesterday, but at the same time, while I'm talking about it, it's been this year will be 11 years that I
Mm.
moved. So at that time, I just knew that the place I was at was not fulfilling. And I knew that I was meant for more. And I just felt saturated and stuck. And I was looking at options at what would be the next best step for me. Honestly, US was never on the radar for me. But because I was teaching at an engineering college back in India, so I would, see students leave for their masters to the US. I would help them with their, statement of purpose and things like that. But it was never really on my radar till like later. I was like, okay, maybe I would have plenty opportunities if I went to the US,
Mhm.
got a degree, and then came back to India and explored my options. However, that didn't turn out the way it is. I'm still here. But it was a lot because number one, when I decided to move, I was 28, and in the Indian culture, I was already too late, unmarried. And they were like my family. There was pressure from family and to get married and then leave. But that's not what I was looking to do. So to break that stereotype of it's never too late, like 28 was late, but to me it didn't matter. I just knew that I was meant for more. So I coaxed my parents into wanting to leave, and obviously my parents were shocked at the beginning, and my dad was like, how could you not have had these plans when I was working? Now I'm retired, and this is a big ask for you, for us financially too, right?
Mhm.
But they did their best to get me a loan, and we had their house as collateral. So that was huge
Mm.
financial
Yeah.
responsibility for them. um for me, it was more leaving behind the familiar people, the familiar faces, the familiar environment. And when before I left, I still lived with my parents because that's pretty normal back in our culture. So I didn't have to cook, I didn't have to clean. We had a maid who would do everything. My mom used to cook meals. So I practically just went to work, came back, and enjoyed my life. So to leave all of that behind, to come back and start from scratch, it was a huge deal. And then to come into the unknown. All I knew at that time when I was leaving is this is not where I want to be. I
Mhm.
just knew that I had to leave. So I didn't know what it would be after I got here. I just knew that I had to get here. So I wasn't looking at like 10 steps ahead. I was just looking at the next step. Once
Mhm.
I landed here, that was a whole nother journey. But that was, my reset.
Right. Now, something you mentioned, like that transition, leaving behind something, going into the unknown. A lot of people struggle with essentially, what some might say is starting over. I like it's a new opportunity, right? Because it can feel like you could have looked at it like, "I'm losing progress. I'm
Mhm.
gonna lose status or my identity." Um, Now, while it seems, Anisha, that you sort of, like, embraced it and you walked into it because you were really the one that was driving it, what do
Yeah.
you say to people who have this type of situation where they do need a fresh start? What mindset shift can help people to reframe and see the season as a reset instead of, like, a loss?
Yes, that's a great question. So I would say whenever you are in a new season or you're met with a choice where it's like either I drop all of it or I go all in. That is like an if or situation. It's more like, um, how do I see myself in the next few years is where I'm at serving the purpose I'm called for. Like God has put everyone here for a purpose. And
Mhm.
we're all basically trying to find our purpose, right? And trying to find something that resonates with us, how we can give back, how we can utilize our skills, and how we can make a difference. So that's the question to ask is where I'm at currently serving anyone or me with regard to my mental peace, with regard to my health, with regard to my finances? Is this where I want to be in probably maybe even 6 months? Nowadays, I don't even think people talk of in 5 years, in 10
Right.
years, right?
Yeah.
It's more like
Yeah.
even 3 years feels like a lot at this point because everything is
Mhm.
changing so fast. So
Mhm.
if you have family, what do you want for your family? If you have kids, then what do you want for your kids? It's more like trying to figure out your why, right? Because that
Mhm.
is what would drive you into a situation like this, where you're making a choice either or even if you're forced into a situation where it's like, oh, I got married and now I have to leave everything behind and move to a new country. It's also a reset. So that's a different kind of reset, which, you didn't naturally choose, or maybe you chose it. Like for some, like in India, if it's an arranged marriage, maybe you didn't choose to, like, move with your partner all the way to a different country. It's more like trying to figure out your why and trying to see the next step
Mhm.
as basically something that will help mold you and help grow you in a way that you would not have thought before. And it's going to bring out the best in you, basically. That's how I view it.
Mhm. I love that. I think that's a great lens to view it through. And I love that you refer to it as seasons. I often do that myself, so I love that. And just this purpose, like we all are here for a reason. And there's something that that you've been placed here to do, to drive, to grow, to share with others. And I think that's important. So, Anisha, another question. Um, a lot of times when we have these major life changes, obvious sometimes we can sort of meet it with resistance, right? Were there any moments where, you had like this really internal obstacle or maybe the external obstacle, which I think was you sort of figuring out and working through with your parents about, how do I get the loans? Were there any moments, even when you were going through that and you were talking that through with your parents, that you were internally saying, maybe, okay, well, maybe not. Maybe I should just stay. Did you ever have that like internal battle?
I would say no, because my personality, I've just been like that ever since a child, right? I
Yeah.
have never given up. I'm always like, okay, if this doesn't work out, what's the next? If this
Mhm.
doesn't work out, how can I make it work? I don't recall myself being someone who would say, okay, this is not working out. Maybe it's not my time.
Mhm.
I'll just wait. I've never been someone who waits for
Mhm.
opportunities. I keep like going after opportunities. So
Mhm.
I don't know if
Mhm.
it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't think like even then it was more like, okay, my mom said no, my dad said no. What do I do to convince them for the next step?
Mhm.
Right. It was like just moving to the next
Yeah.
step, next step.
Yeah.
So I've always had that like no is not an answer for me in the sense like when God says no, yes, he has
Exactly.
a better better
Yeah.
plan. But if it's like I'm getting a no and I don't sense like it's a no from God, but it's more no because of resistance or inertia, or I'm not seeing things in a different perspective. I don't really take no for an answer. I try to figure out, okay, how can we
Mhm.
make this better? How can we make it bigger? Or is this a real no? Is this a real no or is it a false
Mhm.
no? That's kind
Mhm.
of where that's the lens I look at it from. So
Mhm.
um and like I said, I wasn't looking for the next step. My only goal at that point was I need to get on the flight and that flight needs to take off. The moment it lands, we will figure out what happens
That's
next
right,
is
Anisha.
next.
I love that. I mean, because that's right. Sometimes you just have to be willing to take the step. And I know, and obviously, you as a woman of faith, like a lot of times, yes, like sometimes God is just like waiting on you to do the thing. Like you have to
Exactly.
show that, think I've had this conversation with a lot of people over the last like 7, 8 months where I'm like, I just live my life in like total surrender to God. And like it's whatever I'm going to do, I always put before him and I ask. And it's like, if it's not what you have, if it's not your best for me, then I don't want it. Like I am
Exactly.
perfectly fine with you saying no to this. And I think sometimes like people don't understand that. I'm like, no, like because just because you start a business or something and it doesn't necessarily work, and don't just hold on. Like I'm a person, like I pray about it, and if I'm getting all the signs from God that like, yeah, it is time for you just to, that wasn't meant to be. Like that was a
Hmm.
season. Let's close it. Let's move on to the real thing, the
Yeah,
next thing, the best thing that I have for you. And I think sometimes people can like kind of block their own growth by like
sure.
still trying to hold on to those things.
Absolutely. And that's kind of like something that I learned from my parents is that, you know, like let the words of your whatever is in your heart, you got to make it known to God, and then if it's his will, he will make it happen. So
Mhm.
unless you are like showing him what you want, or if like I was doing a devotional the other day and she said, Wim, you're never ready for the purpose that
Mhm.
God calls you for. You
Mhm.
just take the step and then God makes things in a
Mhm.
way that makes you ready, right? So unless you
Yes.
take the step, you never know. And it's the
Mhm.
same thing with me. Like, I pray about it, and if it all seems to fall in line, then it's
Mhm.
like, okay, maybe this is aligned with God's will. And if not, there has been like so many detours. For example, I didn't plan on living in the US, but now here I am
Yeah.
with my husband, a child, and becoming a citizen, right? I
Mhm.
wanted to go back and live close to my parents, take care of them, and just enjoy my
Mhm.
time with family. But this is a different family I have now. I have a
Mhm.
different community. I'm not a very open person to be on the camera, and I'm having a podcast. So
Yeah.
it's all these things, the little things that makes you feel okay, there's a different purpose, and then you pray about it and try to find that alignment, I would say.
Exactly. No, I definitely agree with you. I think that's amazing. Great advice.
Thank you.
How did your experience, as an immigrant shape the way you've approached building your career in tech and your entrepreneurial ventures?
I would say just like any immigrants that, even I've heard about stories and I interview the ladies on my show, we all come from a background of grit, perseverance, hard work, And these ethics that our parents instill in us of how, um, it's like by the sweat of your brow shall you live. So it's more like, you do your best. And that's kind of always what my dad used to say is like, you do your best and God will bless you. And if it's not meant for you, then, somebody else will be blessed through you. So you just
Mhm.
have to, keep going. And so I feel like that hard work, the work ethic culture, the being punctual, or just
Mhm.
these different values that we learn. And also because we come from a background where everything is like highly competitive, right? um Coming from India, where there's mostly engineers, doctors, lawyers, right? So
Mhm.
it's like very competitive. Education is given very high value, priority, and parents invest so much in their children's education. So that makes you kind of like very um, goal oriented, competitive.
Mhm.
So all of that, I feel like it adds advantage to shaping who you are.
Right.
And when you come to a different country, then you are like, you're still fighting that identity battle. So you're like, okay, I'm not completely here yet. I'm not completely left that place. So you still try to make um, your culture, like you keep it as home, like your
Mhm.
home base. And then you keep returning to it as and when you feel like, you're struggling with the identity
Mhm.
battle, so to say. So I would
Yeah.
say that is my take on it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I think something you said too, like really just those core values that you have are so important. In yeah, like when you were saying like, like show basically like showing up and just being,
Yes.
and also like I think just working in excellence, right? Like
Yes, working in excellence.
it's something that I always it's so it's so funny because, like, sometimes my husband, he says to me, he goes, "Oh my god, do you have to be a nerd about, like, everything all the time?" And I was like, "You call it being a nerd, but I call it excellence." Like, I have to
Exactly.
show up no matter what I'm doing in excellence, and I have to put that forth in everything that I touch. So it's really important for me because you only get a first time to make, one time to make a good first impression for people. And
Absolutely.
and I said, "And that's just so it's so important." I said, "It's just who I am." I mean, like, I was that way when I was in corporate. I'm that way as an entrepreneur. Like, that is just who I am, and that's just how I was, like, raised is to, like, always, put my best foot forward and make sure that, so oftentimes I know I mean, I think when you work in excellence, it can sometimes, create a heavy load for you,
Oh,
a
yeah.
burden for you, because 'cause you're always trying to check other people's stuff. And when other people's work, like if you're partnering with somebody on something, if their work doesn't show up in a way that's meaningful, then you're like, oh no, I'm gonna have to redo it.
Yes, yes, I hear you. And my husband says that. It's like, why do you have to be a perfectionist in everything? And I'm like, it's just, the standard I was raised with. And sometimes as we grow, we set those high standards for ourselves. And then it's very hard for us not to stick to those standards, and then to also try and understand that not everybody has those standards and they have a different way
Right.
of showing up. So it takes a little bit.
Yeah. And I was like, and I always tell him, like, yes, but I give other people grace.
Yes.
I said, I may not always give myself the grace at first, but I
Yeah.
give other people grace. I said, because I do realize that not everyone has grown and sees themselves as like working in excellence. There are just some people who are like, it said to do this, so I'm doing this. And
Yes.
that's totally fine. I said, and I give those people like, okay, good for you. I said, but for myself, I just hold myself to a different standard. And I think, like, I said, when you own a business, like, I feel like you have to be that way. I'm very fly. Like, I'll throw things at the wall, to see if they stick. Like, I'm not afraid to fail fast. So if I can put something out there, I mean, it's still going to be like good though. I mean, it's going to be
I'm sure.
it's got to be good by my standards. But even if it's not like something that, like that, if it doesn't work, I'm like, okay, well, at least I learned that it didn't work so I can move on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love that.
No. So now, Anisha, you balance a full-time tech career,
Mhm.
with also two mission driven businesses. So what systems, routines, or just, mindsets help you stay grounded and effective, with so much going on?
Oh, first of all, my faith helps me stay grounded and to know that I'm very grateful for all the opportunities. Like when I'm talking about myself or introducing myself, and I'm like, okay, I have a full time job, I have a business, I have a podcast. It sounds like a lot to a lot of people,
Mhm.
but to me, I've always been very motivated, very driven, very I love opportunities. So I'm very grateful to be in a place where I can have all these opportunities at the same time. And to remember that I don't have to be perfect in all the roles on the same day, right? So to just take a deep breath and be like, okay, today is my day of podcast, or today is my day of showing up for my clients, or today is the day of showing up for marketing. So to balance my time, prioritize it, and also, um, like they say, right? God first, family
Mhm.
second, and
Mhm.
then your career. So just to be mindful of that and to know that if this was brought to be by God, then it's here to stay, right?
Mhm.
And then I just have to show up, give it my best, and let it ride, basically.
Yes, I love that. So, for anyone who might be listening to or watching us, and they're in the middle of their own big life transition or change, what would you tell them about leaning into growth instead of fear?
Oh, that's a lovely question. Fear can, everybody is afraid. So know that you're not alone. Everybody feels the fear. The only difference is when you lean into growth, is you're taking that step intentionally to change your situation, basically. When the time comes for growth or a transition or a reset or change of situation, it's basically because where you're at is not serving you. And I feel like God is calling you to see that you're meant for more, and that where you're currently at is not serving you or him or the people you love, or you're not doing justice to yourself. That's how I see it. So it's like, just it's hard. It's not going to be easy. That is, like, if somebody says it's easy, yeah, that's not true. It is going to be hard, but you got to choose your hard, right? So that growth will change you as a person. You're going to grow in so many different aspects that you would not even have thought. And now, like, looking back on these 10 years, the way I've grown to what I was, and I had no idea that this would be my life 10 years later, right? So to just take that leap of faith, if that seed is planted in you that you have to move forward, or you're resetting, or you're transitioning, it is there for a purpose. So trust it, take that leap of faith, and find your community. You got to find the people who will help you, because you don't have to do this alone, right? There's a lot of people who have gone before you. And if you're seeing people who have done what you want to do, talk to them, find your community, find your people, and that would make things so much easier for you. So that's my advice.
Oh, I love that. All right. Well, Anisha, please tell the audience where they can reach out to you, how they can connect, and even, partner with you, where to find the podcast, and all of that good stuff.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. So you can find everything on my website, jenningstechcorner.com. So there's a page for the podcast, there's links to my LinkedIn, Instagram, email. Feel free to email me, Instagram, DM, LinkedIn. Any way that works for you is fine by me. And yeah, you have all the information about me on jenningstechcorner.com. So that's like a one-stop shop.
Awesome. All right. Now we're going to move into three things with Anisha. I'm going to ask you three questions that just helps our audience get to know you a little bit better. The first one is a two-parter. How do you start and end the day?
Um, I start. So right now, I co-sleep with my 3-year-old. So my day begins with, waking up beside him and sleeping beside him. But I always start with a devotional, and I end my day with a devotional. I try to keep that as consistent as possible because I like to start my day with prayer and listening to a word of God and to the word of God, and also ending it like that.
Awesome. All right. The second is, what's a current goal or an intention that you're focused on?
My current intention and goal is to slow down and enjoy every moment that I'm currently at, because um, sometimes we are so much into goals and moving, 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 that when we achieve those goals, we forget to slow down and enjoy those moments. So that has been, um, for me, for the past few months, I would say, to just stop, slow down. Because when I look at my son, I mean, he's already 3. And like, where's the time gone, right? So I just want to slow down, enjoy every moment, and be grateful for everything that I have. And then obviously keep working towards my goals. But basic intention for this year is to slow down, and also courage to show up. Um, to be, I'm looking for more speaking opportunities, to be on, many podcasts. So that's kind of a current goal as well.
Awesome. All right. And lastly, where are you currently finding inspiration?
um I would say books. I read quite a lot of books. So uh books, and sometimes LinkedIn when I follow
Mhm,
people. And I would also say through the people I meet through my
mhm,
podcast, just
mhm.
listening to their story and the things they have done and achieved gives me a lot of inspiration. Um, and yeah, I would say like networking, when meeting people and seeing what they're up to and how they are leading their lives and their goals, definitely inspires me.
Awesome. I love that. Well, Anisha, it has been a joy chatting with you today. And
Likewise.
before I let you go, I have one last question for you. And it is, what are 3 things you'd like our audience listening or watching to take away from our conversation today?
Um, I would say take that leap of faith, right? Wherever you're at, you're there for a reason. And if you are at the brink of a reset or a transition or a move, trust the process and take that leap of faith. That's number one. Second, give yourself grace. Women, especially women, give yourself a lot of grace, because we are in an age of digital overload. We have so much information, so many things going on. The need to be perfect, the need to do everything, the need to, just be the best. You can, but also know that it's okay if you don't. Just give yourself grace. So that would be my number 2. And my number 3 would be just have a strong why as to what you're trying to achieve, or what your goals are, or what direction you want to move in. You need a very strong why. Unless you have that, it's very hard to keep coming back. If you're an entrepreneur, or you have your own business, or you're a founder, whatever season of life you're in, you really need a strong why. And the whys change with every season. So just to have that strong why will keep you going through the tough times.
Yes, awesome. I love it. Well, Anisha, again, thank you so much for joining the show today. I really, really have enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you so much. Likewise, my pleasure.
Awesome. Stay tuned, everyone. All right, welcome back. And let's thank Anisha again for joining the show today. What a fantastic conversation. I just had such a fun time talking to her. If you want to learn more about her and what she does every day And also make sure you listen to her podcast. Check out the links in the show notes. If you'd like to learn more about us at Glow Up Girl, make sure you check out glowupgirl.com. You can sign up for a newsletter to get tools, insights, and inspiration for your own personal glow up journey. All right, also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're not a member, make sure you go over there and subscribe. We are at Glow Up Girl, and wherever you're listening, don't forget to rate, review, and share. It helps more people find the show. And if you're sharing on social, make sure you tag us so we can cheer you on. All right, my friends, I want to say thank you again, as always, for all of the support. Thank you for taking time out of your day. You don't have to. I know there are lots of podcasts to listen to out there, and I really appreciate that you all keep showing up for Glow Up Girl. And we are now in season 7. I don't know if I said that earlier, but we are in season 7. It's just been amazing to continue to have such amazing conversations with such great people. So if you know someone out there who I should be talking to, make sure you send them over to glowupgirl.com and have them click on the podcast and be a guest link and submit their information. All right, friends, that is it. So thank you again for spending part of your day with me. Until next week, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.